My name is Hurt. I'm 53 years old, and what I discovered in my own home shattered everything I believed about the people I love. For 28 years, I thought I knew what loyalty meant. I thought I understood the woman who slept beside me every night, who cooked breakfast in our kitchen, who raised our children under the same roof, where we built memories I believed would last forever. But sometimes the people closest to you are the ones hiding the darkest secrets. I'm standing here today with a trembling voice and a wounded heart because I need to tell you something. I need to share this story not just for myself, but for every man and woman out there who's ever felt that cold knife of doubt twisting in their gut, that sickening feeling when something doesn't add up, when the person you trusted most starts feeling like a stranger. But what I saw that night, I'll never forget. The image is burned into my mind like a brand on flesh. It haunts my dreams. It wakes me up at 3 in the morning, covered in cold sweat, gasping for air like I'm drowning. Before I continue, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. It helps me know someone out there still believes in stories like this. That someone understands what it feels like when your entire world crumbles around you and you're left standing in the rubble, wondering if anything was ever real. Let me take you back to before everything fell apart, back when life was simple, back when I was naive enough to believe that love and trust were enough to protect a marriage. My mornings used to start at 5:30. The alarm would buzz, and I'd reach over to silence it before it woke Diane. That was her name, Diane. For 28 years, that name meant home to me. It meant safety. It meant forever. I'd slip out of bed quietly, my joints creaking a bit more each year, reminding me I wasn't the young man who'd married her all those decades ago. I'd shuffle to the bathroom, splash cold water on my face, and stare at myself in the mirror. Gray hair at the temples, lines around my eyes, but still the same man, I thought. Still faithful, still devoted. Diane would be up by 6, and I'd hear her moving around the kitchen while I got dressed for work. By the time I came downstairs, there'd be coffee brewing, that rich, dark roast she knew I loved, and she'd be at the stove, making eggs or pancakes, or whatever struck her fancy that morning. We'd sit together at the small table by the window, the morning sun streaming through the curtains she'd picked out herself, turning everything golden and warm. We'd talk about simple things. Our daughter, Monica, who was finishing her graduate program 3 states away. Our son, Felix, who'd just gotten engaged to a lovely woman named Clarissa. The garden that needed weeding, the leak in the garage roof I kept meaning to fix, normal things, beautiful things, the kind of mundane conversations that make up a life. I worked as a regional sales manager for an industrial supply company. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well enough. Enough for the house, enough for the kids' education, enough for the occasional vacation to the coast, where Diane and I would walk along the beach, holding hands like teenagers, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Diane had retired early from her job as a dental hygienist 2 years prior. Her hands had started giving her trouble, arthritis, the doctor said, and she'd decided it was time to focus on other things, hobbies, volunteering at the local library, spending more time with her sister, Patricia, who lived across town. Or at least, that's what I thought she was doing. Our evenings followed a rhythm we'd perfected over decades. I'd come home around 6, tired but content. Diane would have dinner ready, or we'd cook together, moving around the kitchen in that synchronized dance that comes from years of shared space. We'd eat. We'd watch television. Sometimes we'd sit on the back porch with glasses of wine, listening to the crickets and talking about nothing and everything. We'd go to bed around 10, and she'd curl up against me, her head on my chest, my arm around her shoulders. I'd fall asleep breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo, feeling her warmth, believing with every fiber of my being that this was forever. This was happiness, I thought. This was what I'd worked so hard to build and protect. But soon, I started noticing small things that didn't make sense. Little things at first. Things so subtle, I almost dismissed them. Things I told myself were nothing, just the paranoid imaginings of a middle-aged man who watched too much television. But those little things, they were the cracks in the dam, and behind that dam was a flood of betrayal that would drown everything I'd ever known. It started maybe 4 months ago. September, I think. The air was just beginning to turn crisp, that first hint of autumn after a long, humid summer. Diane's phone started buzzing more frequently, text messages at odd hours. She'd glance at the screen, and something would flash across her face. Not quite a smile, but something close to it. Something secretive. Something that didn't include me. "Who's that?" I'd ask casually, not wanting to seem suspicious. "Oh, just Patricia," she'd say. Or, "Just someone from the library volunteer group." Or, "Just spam." She'd slip the phone into her pocket, screen side down, and change the subject. Then there were the appointments. Diane had always been organized, keeping a calendar on the refrigerator where she'd mark down important dates, doctor's visits, social commitments. But suddenly, she was having meetings and errands she didn't bother writing down. "Where are you headed?" I'd ask when I saw her getting ready to leave. "Just running some errands," she'd say vaguely. "Grocery store. Maybe stop by Patricia's for a bit." But she'd be gone for hours. 4, 5, sometimes 6 hours for errands. And when she came back, there'd be only 1 or 2 small bags of groceries. Nothing that justified the time she'd been away. Her appearance changed too. Subtle things, but I noticed. She started wearing makeup more often, even just to run those mysterious errands. She'd always been a beautiful woman. That hadn't changed with age, but she'd grown comfortable over the years. Casual. Now she was putting in effort again. New clothes appeared in her closet. Nothing scandalous, but nicer things. Younger things. She joined a gym. At 50 years old, she suddenly decided she needed to get in shape. 3 times a week, sometimes 4, she'd head out in her new workout clothes, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, looking more energized than I'd seen her in years. "That's great, honey," I said, trying to be supportive. "I'm glad you're taking care of yourself." But something gnawed at me. Something felt wrong. The worst part was the distance. Emotional distance that opened up between us like a chasm. When we sat together in the evenings, she seemed distracted, present in body but absent in spirit. Her mind was somewhere else. With someone else, perhaps. Our conversations became shorter, more superficial. The easy intimacy we'd shared for decades started to evaporate like morning dew under a harsh sun. In bed, she'd turn away from me, not dramatically, not in a way that would provoke a confrontation, just a subtle shift, a little more space between us, her back to me instead of her head on my chest. And the worst part, when I'd try to initiate intimacy, she'd have excuses, headaches, exhaustion. "Not tonight, Raymond. I'm really tired." I tried to tell myself it was age, menopause, the natural cooling of passion that comes with decades of marriage. But deep down, in that dark place where we hide our most terrifying thoughts, I knew something else was happening. I started noticing things around the house too. The bathroom would smell different sometimes, not her usual perfume, but something else, something masculine. Cologne, maybe? But I told myself I was being ridiculous, imagining things. One evening, I came home early from work. A meeting had been canceled, and I decided to surprise her. Maybe we could go out for dinner. Maybe I could break through whatever wall had come between us. I pulled into the driveway and noticed her car was gone. Not unusual. She was probably out running errands again. But when I walked into the house, I could feel it. Someone had been there, recently. The air felt different, warmer. There was a coffee cup in the sink that I didn't recognize, not one of ours. A generic white cup, like from a coffee shop, but it was freshly washed and placed in the sink, still slightly damp. My heart started pounding. I walked through the house like a detective at a crime scene. Everything looked normal. Everything was in its place. But something felt violated, disturbed. In the bedroom, the bed was made, but sloppily. Diane was meticulous about making the bed, tucking the corners just so. This wasn't her work. Or maybe it was her work, done hastily, trying to cover something up. I stood there in our bedroom, our sanctuary, and felt the first real wave of panic wash over me. Until one night, I saw something that made my heart stop. I couldn't confront her. Not yet. Not without proof. Because what did I have? A coffee cup? A feeling? A poorly made bed? She'd tell me I was being paranoid. She'd make me feel guilty for doubting her. She'd turn it around somehow, and I'd end up apologizing for even bringing it up. So I started watching, waiting, hating myself for it. This is what betrayal does to you. It turns you into someone you don't recognize. Someone sneaky and suspicious. Someone who checks their wife's phone when she's in the shower. Someone who tracks mileage on the car. Someone who becomes a spy in their own home. I started keeping a mental log of her absences. Monday afternoon, gone from 1 to 5. Thursday morning, gone from 9 to 12. Saturday, gone all afternoon while I was supposedly playing golf with my friend Trevor. I did check her phone once, just once, when she was outside gardening and had left it on the kitchen counter. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I might have a heart attack right there. But it was locked with a passcode. She'd never had a passcode before. In 28 years of marriage, our phones had been open books to each other. Why would she need a passcode now? I tried our anniversary. Wrong. Her birthday. Wrong. The kids' birthdays. Wrong. I set the phone down before she could catch me, my hands trembling, my mouth dry. "You're imagining things," Trevor told me when I finally confided in him over drinks one evening. Trevor was my oldest friend, had been the best man at my wedding. "You're just going through something, midlife crisis or whatever. Diane loves you, man. She's probably just trying to have her own life, her own interests. That's healthy." Patricia, Diane's sister, said something similar when I casually probed during a family barbecue. "Raymond, you worry too much," she said, laughing. "Diane's just finding herself again after retirement. Let her have some freedom. You don't need to be joined at the hip, you know." They made me feel guilty, paranoid, like the problem was me, not her suspicious behavior. But I couldn't shake it. That sick feeling in my gut that something was terribly wrong. I started having nightmares. Dreams where I'd come home and find her with another man in our bed. Dreams where I'd confront her and she'd laugh in my face, telling me she'd never loved me, that our entire marriage had been a lie. I'd wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, reaching for her in the dark, and she'd be there, sleeping peacefully beside me, and I'd wonder if I was losing my mind. My work started suffering. I couldn't concentrate in meetings. I'd lose my train of thought mid-sentence. My boss pulled me aside one day and asked if everything was okay at home. "Everything's fine," I lied, forcing a smile. "Just tired." But everything wasn't fine. My world was unraveling, one thread at a time, and I was powerless to stop it. I started noticing changes in our finances too. Small cash withdrawals from our joint account. Nothing huge. $50 here, $100 there. But they added up. When I asked Diane about it, she'd say she needed cash for the farmer's market or some sale at the library's used bookstore. Plausible. Always plausible. But the sick feeling in my gut kept growing. Then came the phone call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was at work, sitting in my office, trying to focus on a quarterly report that was due by end of week. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello? Is this Raymond?" A man's voice. Older, rough, like he'd smoked too many cigarettes. "Yes. Who's this?" "My name's Harold. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk. It's about your wife." My blood ran cold. What about my wife? "I work at the Riverside Inn, the motel off Highway 47. And listen, I don't like getting involved in people's business, but your wife checked in here with another man yesterday. She used a credit card, and I recognized the name. I know your family. Your daughter used to babysit my granddaughter years ago. Small world, right?" The office suddenly felt too hot, too small. I couldn't breathe. "Are you sure it was her?" My voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. "I'm sorry, man. I really am. But yeah, I'm sure. She's been coming here for a while now. Always the same guy. They check in around noon, leave by 3 or 4. I thought you should know. But the next morning, the evidence was right in front of me, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I don't remember driving home that day. I must have made some excuse to my boss, must have walked to my car, must have navigated the roads, but I have no memory of it. I was operating on autopilot, my mind completely blank, like someone had wiped it clean. When I pulled into the driveway, Diane's car was there. She was home. She was probably in the kitchen or the living room, going about her day, not knowing that I knew, not knowing that the life we'd built together had just crumbled to dust. I sat in the car for 20 minutes, just staring at the house, our house, the house where we'd brought our babies home from the hospital, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays and anniversaries, where I'd kissed her goodnight 10,000 times, believing every kiss meant something. How do you walk into your home knowing it's been desecrated? How do you look at your wife knowing she's been lying to your face for months? I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to put my fist through the windshield. Instead, I took deep breaths and tried to think rationally. I couldn't confront her yet, not with just a phone call from a motel clerk. I needed more. I needed proof that was undeniable, proof she couldn't talk her way out of. When I finally went inside, she was in the kitchen making dinner. The smell of garlic and onions filled the air. She turned and smiled at me like everything was normal. "Hi, honey. You're home early. Dinner won't be ready for another hour." I looked at her, really looked at her, trying to see the woman who would betray me, trying to understand how someone could smile at you with such warmth while harboring such terrible secrets. "That's okay," I managed to say. "I'm not very hungry anyway." Something flickered in her eyes. Concern? Guilt? I couldn't tell. "Are you feeling all right? You look pale." "Just a long day," I said, and retreated to the bedroom before I said something I couldn't take back. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The Riverside Inn, Highway 47. She'd been going there for a while, Harold had said. Always the same guy. Who was he? How had she met him? How long had this been going on? The questions burned through my brain like acid. That night, I couldn't eat. I pushed food around my plate while Diane made small talk about her day. She'd gone to the library, she said. Had lunch with Patricia. Normal day, normal lies. I excused myself early and went to the garage. I needed to think. I needed a plan. I'd read about this kind of thing online, in forums for betrayed spouses, private investigators, GPS trackers, hidden cameras, all the tools desperate people use when trust has been shattered. But I didn't want to hire a private investigator. This was too personal, too painful. I needed to see it for myself. I ordered a small camera online, the kind you can hide in everyday objects. It would arrive in 2 days. In the meantime, I'd play along. I'd pretend everything was fine. I'd smile and make small talk and die a little more inside every time she lied to me. Wednesday was torture. Thursday was worse. I watched her prepare to go out on Friday afternoon, putting on makeup, wearing a nice blouse I'd bought her for her birthday last year. "Where are you headed?" I asked, my voice carefully neutral. "Just meeting Patricia for lunch," she said. "We're trying that new bistro downtown." Another lie. So smooth. So effortless. "Have fun," I said, and hated myself for the weakness in my voice. As soon as she left, I checked the credit card statements online. There it was. Riverside Inn. $300 charged 3 days ago, and before that, another charge. And another. Going back months, I felt sick, physically sick. I ran to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left, then sat on the cold tile floor, shaking. This was real. This was happening. My wife of 28 years was having an affair. The camera arrived on Saturday morning while Diane was at her gym. I set it up in our bedroom, hidden in the digital clock on the dresser. It had motion activation and would record directly to my phone. I felt dirty doing it, invasive, like I was the one doing something wrong. But I needed to know. I needed to see. That night, I pressed record and waited. Nothing happened Saturday night. We went to bed at our usual time. She kissed me goodnight, a quick, perfunctory peck that held no warmth, and turned away. Sunday was a family day. Monica video called to tell us about her thesis defense. Felix and Clarissa came over for dinner. We all sat around the table, laughing and talking, and I had to pretend everything was fine. I had to smile and play the happy father, the devoted husband, while my insides were being torn apart. Diane was good at pretending too. She was warm with the kids, affectionate even. She held my hand across the table during grace. She played her role perfectly. I wondered if she'd ever been real, if any of it had been real. Monday morning, I told Diane I had an out-of-town meeting. I'd be gone all day, wouldn't be back until late evening. I watched her carefully as I said it, looking for any sign of anticipation, any hint that she was planning something. She nodded sympathetically. "That's too bad. Drive safe, honey." I drove to work, waited an hour, then called in sick. My boss wasn't happy, but I didn't care. Nothing mattered except the truth. I parked my car 3 blocks from our house and walked back, staying off the main roads. I felt ridiculous, like a character in a bad movie. But this was my life now. This was what she'd turned me into. I let myself in through the back door as quietly as possible and crept upstairs to our bedroom. The camera had been recording all morning, but nothing had happened yet. Just Diane moving around, making the bed, going about her morning routine. Then, around 11, I heard her phone ring. I checked the camera feed on my phone, watching in real time as she answered. "Hi," she said, and her voice was different, softer, warmer, the way she used to sound when she talked to me, years ago. "Yes, he's gone for the day." "Okay, yes, that sounds perfect. I can't wait to see you too." My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. She ended the call and started getting ready. She showered, blow-dried her hair, put on makeup with more care than she'd shown in months. She chose her outfit carefully, a sundress I'd never seen before, probably one of those new purchases she'd made. She looked beautiful, excited, happy in a way I hadn't seen in so long, and it was all for someone else. At 11:45, the doorbell rang. I watched through the camera as she practically ran downstairs. I heard the front door open. I heard her voice, light and musical. "Come in." Then I heard a man's voice, deep, confident. "You look beautiful." "Thank you," she said, and there was that warmth again, that affection I'd been starving for. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was being crushed in a vice. I heard them coming upstairs, footsteps on the stairs I'd climbed thousands of times, getting closer to our bedroom, our sanctuary. I couldn't watch, but I had to watch. The bedroom door opened and there she was, leading a man into our bedroom. He was tall, maybe late 40s, dark hair graying at the temples, handsome in that effortless way some men are. He pulled her to him and kissed her, a real kiss, deep and passionate and intimate, the kind of kiss she used to give me a lifetime ago. I wanted to look away. I wanted to close the app, to unsee what I was seeing, but I was frozen, trapped in my own nightmare. They moved to the bed, our bed, the bed where we'd slept together for 28 years, where we'd conceived our children, where I'd held her through nightmares and illness and grief. I watched as they undressed each other. I watched as he touched her in ways I used to touch her. I watched as she responded to him with a passion I thought had died years ago. I froze. My whole world collapsed in a single frame. This wasn't just physical betrayal. This was intimate. This was connection. This was everything I'd been missing from our marriage. Everything I'd thought we'd lost together due to age and time and the natural fading of passion. But it hadn't faded. She just redirected it. To someone else. I don't know how long I sat there in my car 3 blocks away, watching my marriage end on a small screen. Time lost all meaning. The world reduced to that bedroom, that bed, those 2 people who had no idea they were being observed. When it was finally over, when they lay there in each other's arms, talking softly, laughing occasionally, I closed the app. I sat in my car in the middle of the day, in a suburban neighborhood, and I wept. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere primal. Grief so profound it felt like dying. But what happened next was even worse. I couldn't go home. Not yet. Not while they were still there, defiling everything I'd ever loved. I drove aimlessly for hours, my vision blurred with tears, my mind a chaotic mess of rage and pain and disbelief. I ended up at a park on the edge of town, sitting on a bench, staring at nothing. How long had this been going on? Who was he? Did she love him? Was she planning to leave me? The questions circled endlessly, each one more painful than the last. My phone buzzed. A text from Diane. "Hope your meeting is going well. I made your favorite for dinner." The casual cruelty of it was staggering. She'd spent the afternoon in bed with another man, and now she was texting me about dinner, playing the dutiful wife, maintaining the illusion. I wanted to text back. I know everything. I wanted to shatter her world the way she'd shattered mine, but I didn't. Not yet. Because somewhere beneath the pain and betrayal, a cold anger was beginning to form. A need not just for truth, but for justice, for consequences. She'd taken my trust and crushed it. She'd taken my love and mocked it. She'd taken the sanctity of our home and violated it in the most profound way possible. And she'd done it while smiling to my face, while accepting my affection, while letting me believe we had a future together. I couldn't let that stand. I couldn't just confront her and have some tearful argument where she'd apologize and promise it meant nothing and beg for forgiveness. This required something more, something calculated. I started thinking about our assets. The house was in both our names, our savings accounts were joint, the retirement accounts, the investments, all intertwined after nearly 3 decades of marriage. If we divorced, and there was no if anymore, only when, I wanted to make sure I wasn't left with nothing while she rode off into the sunset with her lover. I needed evidence, documented, undeniable evidence. The video on my phone was a start, but I needed more. I needed to know who this man was, what their relationship entailed, how long it had been going on. I needed to build a case. Around 6, I finally drove home. By then, her car was the only one in the driveway. He was gone. The evidence of their afternoon together erased, or so she thought. I walked in to find the house spotless and the smell of pot roast filling the air. My favorite, just like she'd promised. Diane was in the kitchen, humming softly to herself. She turned when I entered and smiled. "Hi, honey. How was your meeting?" I looked at her. This woman I'd loved for most of my adult life. This stranger wearing my wife's face. "It was fine," I said, my voice flat. She frowned slightly. "Are you okay? You look tired?" "Just a long day." We ate dinner in near silence. I couldn't taste the food, couldn't focus on her attempts at conversation. I kept seeing flashes of the video, his hands on her, her face, transformed by pleasure and happiness that had nothing to do with me. "Raymond, you're really worrying me," she said finally. "You've been acting strange for days. Is something wrong at work?" The audacity, the sheer, breathtaking audacity of her concern. "Everything's fine," I said. "I'm just tired." That night in bed, I lay awake while she slept beside me. I'd checked the video again, made sure it was safely backed up to cloud storage. My evidence, my proof. Over the next 2 weeks, I gathered more information. I hired a private investigator after all. Not because I needed more proof of the affair, but because I needed to know who he was and what his situation was. His name was Gregory Thornton. Divorced, lived alone in a condo downtown. He was some kind of consultant, vague enough that it could mean anything. He and Diane had met at her gym. Of course. The gym that had suddenly become so important to her. They'd been seeing each other for 7 months. 7 months of lies. 7 months of secret meetings. 7 months of her choosing him over me, over our vows, over everything we'd built together. The investigator provided me with dates, times, locations. The Riverside Inn wasn't the only place. There were restaurants across town where they'd meet for lunch. A cabin he rented in the mountains where they'd spent an entire weekend. A weekend she'd told me she was visiting an old college friend. Every new piece of information was another knife in my heart. I consulted with a divorce attorney, a shark named Lydia Patterson, who had a reputation for taking no prisoners in divorce proceedings. "With this kind of evidence," she told me, "we can make sure you're protected. The adultery will work heavily in your favor, especially if she tries to claim any sort of spousal support." I thought it was over, but I was wrong. Because Diane wasn't just having an affair. That would have been painful enough, devastating enough, but the truth was so much worse. The investigator called me one evening in late October. I was sitting in my car in a parking lot, I'd taken to doing that a lot, finding excuses to be away from home, unable to bear being in that house with her. Raymond, we need to talk. There's something else. My stomach dropped. What? Gregory Thornton isn't just some random guy she met at the gym. He's been investigated twice for fraud. Real estate schemes mostly. He targets older women, especially ones with assets. Gets close to them, gains their trust, and then convinces them to invest in various projects that don't exist. I felt cold all over. Are you saying? I'm saying your wife might not just be having an affair. She might be getting conned. Or, he paused, or she might be in on it. That's impossible. Diane wouldn't. I've seen the bank records you got me access to. She's withdrawn over $40,000 in cash over the past 6 months. Small amounts, spread out, but it adds up. That money's going somewhere. $40,000. I'd noticed the small withdrawals, but I'd had no idea it was that much. Where's the money going? That's what we need to find out. I spent the next week in a fog darker than anything I'd experienced before. It wasn't just betrayal now. It wasn't just my wife sleeping with another man. It was potential financial ruin. It was her possibly being complicit in stealing from our family, from our children's inheritance, from everything I'd worked my entire life to build. The investigator dug deeper. He found that Gregory had convinced Diane to invest in a real estate development opportunity, a luxury condo project that was supposedly being built 2 states over. She'd signed documents, given him money, lots of money. The project didn't exist. Gregory Thornton was running the same scheme he'd run before, the one that had gotten him investigated but never prosecuted because his victims had been too embarrassed to testify. And my wife, my Diane, had fallen for it. Or worse, was she really a victim, or was she hoping to hide assets before divorcing me? I couldn't tell anymore. I didn't know this woman at all. I decided to confront her. Not about the affair. She didn't know I knew about that. But about the money. One evening after dinner, I sat her down at the kitchen table. Diane, we need to talk about our finances. She looked confused. Our finances? Why? I've been reviewing our accounts, and I've noticed some discrepancies. Large cash withdrawals over the past several months. She paled. Just slightly, but I saw it. Oh, that. It's nothing, just $40,000 isn't nothing. She stood up abruptly. Raymond, I don't appreciate being interrogated in my own home. Our home. And I think I have a right to know where $40,000 of our money went. She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her mind working, calculating what to say, how much to reveal. I made an investment, she said finally. What kind of investment? Real estate. It's a development project. It's going to triple our money in 2 years. Who are you investing with? A firm. Thornton Development Group. Thornton. His name. He'd been so bold as to use his own name. Did you consult with our financial advisor about this? Did you tell me? I'm allowed to make financial decisions, Raymond. I'm not a child. For $40,000? From our joint account? Without discussing it with me? She crossed her arms defensively. I knew you'd react like this. You're always so conservative with money. This is a real opportunity. Show me the paperwork. What? The investment paperwork? The contracts? I want to see them. She hesitated. I'll have to find them. They're somewhere in my office upstairs. I'll wait. She went upstairs and I could hear her moving around, opening drawers, shuffling papers. She came back down 20 minutes later with a folder. I read through the documents. They looked professional enough. Letterhead, legal language, signatures. But I'd had Lydia Patterson review similar documents from the investigator's report. These were fake, convincing fakes, but fake nonetheless. Diane, I said slowly, I need you to tell me the truth. How do you know this, Gregory Thornton? She went white, completely white. All the blood drained from her face. What? Why would you? How do you know him? He's just a business contact. The investment. Don't lie to me anymore. And just when I thought life was returning to normal, something unexpected happened. She broke. Right there at the kitchen table, she just broke. The tears came first, then the shaking, then the words, tumbling out in a confused rush. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how I let it get this far. How long? My voice was ice. How long have you been sleeping with him? She flinched at the word sleeping, like I'd slapped her. 7 months. Since March. We met at the gym, and he was so charming, so interested in me. Raymond, I felt invisible. I felt old and used up and boring, and he made me feel beautiful again, young again, important. So that makes it okay? That makes it okay to betray our marriage? To steal from our family? I didn't steal. The investment is real. He showed me the plans. It's a con, Diane. He's a con artist. The development doesn't exist. He's taken you for $40,000, and he's probably done this to a dozen other women. The look on her face would have been satisfying if I weren't dying inside. No, she whispered. No, that's not possible. He loves me. He's going to what? Leave his wife? Oh, wait, he's divorced. How convenient. Let me guess. He told you that you were special? Different from anyone he'd ever met? That he's never felt this way before? She started crying harder. Stop it. Just stop. I've hired a private investigator. I have videos, photos, bank records. I have everything, Diane. Every lie you've told. Every time you looked me in the face and smiled while betraying me. What are you going to do? Her voice was small, terrified. I'm divorcing you, obviously. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you've done. The kids, your sister, our friends, everyone. Please, she sobbed. Please don't. I made a mistake. I can fix this. We can fix this. How? How do you fix 7 months of lies? How do you fix $40,000 that's gone forever? How do you fix what I saw on that video? She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. You recorded us? In our bedroom. In our bed. I watched you with him, Diane. I watched you give him everything that used to be mine. She put her head in her hands and wept like I'd never heard her weep before. Deep, anguished sobs that shook her whole body. I felt nothing. No pity. No sympathy. Just a cold, hollow emptiness where my love for her used to be. I need you to leave, I said. What? Pack a bag. Go stay with Patricia or check into a hotel. I don't care. But you need to leave. Tonight. This is my home too. And you defiled it. You brought another man into our bed. You don't get to stay here anymore. You can't just kick me out. Watch me. Either you leave voluntarily, or I call the police and show them the evidence of your financial fraud. Your choice. It was an empty threat. The police wouldn't do anything, but she didn't know that. She left, packed a bag with shaking hands, still crying, still trying to explain, to apologize, to make me understand. I didn't want to understand. I just wanted her gone. After she left, I sat alone in the house for the first time in 28 years. I walked through each room, seeing it differently now. Every corner held memories that felt poisoned. The kitchen where she'd cook breakfast while planning her afternoon assignations. The living room where we'd watch television while she texted him secretly. The bedroom where she'd destroyed everything. I called Monica and Felix. Told them I needed to talk to them, that it was important. They both heard something in my voice and agreed to come home that weekend. I called Patricia too. She deserved to know what her sister had done. Raymond, is everything okay? Diane just showed up at my door crying. Did she tell you what she did? She said you had a fight, that you kicked her out. Raymond, what's going on? So I told her. Everything. The affair, the money, the lies, the betrayal that had been happening right under everyone's noses for 7 months. Patricia was silent for a long time after I finished. I don't know what to say. I had no idea. She never said anything, never even hinted. She's good at lying. I'll give her that. What are you going to do? I'm divorcing her. I've already contacted an attorney. With the evidence I have, it should be relatively straightforward. The kids. Raymond, this is going to devastate them. She should have thought of that before she decided to destroy our family. That weekend, I told Monica and Felix. Showed them the evidence. Not the videos. I couldn't do that to them. But the financial records, the investigator's report, the timeline of lies. Monica cried. Felix got angry. They both looked at me with such sadness, such disappointment. Not in me, but in their mother. In the woman they'd thought they knew. How could she do this? Monica asked. How could she do this to you? To us? I don't know, sweetheart. I really don't. Felix wanted to confront her. I want to hear her explanation. I want to hear her try to justify this. That's up to you, but I don't think there's any explanation that will make sense. People who do these things, they're operating from a place of selfishness that doesn't account for the people they hurt. The divorce proceedings started in November. Lydia Patterson was as good as her reputation. With the evidence we had, she went for the throat. Diane hired her own attorney, a mediocre one who was clearly in over his head. She tried to claim the affair meant nothing, that she'd been manipulated by Gregory, that she deserved half of everything because it was her marriage, too. But the evidence was damning. The videos, the financial records showing she'd been siphoning money into a fraudulent investment, the timeline of lies and deception. The judge wasn't sympathetic. Mrs. Thompson, he said during one of the hearings, you've shown a clear pattern of deceit and financial irresponsibility. You've violated the marital trust in the most fundamental ways. She tried to speak, to explain, but he cut her off. I've seen enough. The court finds in favor of Mr. Thompson. The house will remain his property. The retirement accounts will be split, but with a 60-40 division in his favor due to the circumstances. No spousal support will be awarded. It should have felt like victory, like justice, but it just felt hollow, because no court ruling, no financial settlement, could give me back what I'd really lost. My trust, my faith in love, my belief that people who promise forever actually mean it. The divorce was finalized in January. 28 years of marriage ended with a judge's signature on legal documents. Diane moved in with Patricia temporarily, then eventually found an apartment across town. She tried to reach out to me several times. Emails, text messages, even handwritten letters left in my mailbox. Please, Raymond, please talk to me. Let me explain. I never meant for any of this to happen. I love you. I always loved you. I just got lost somehow. I deleted the emails, blocked her number, threw away the letters unread. What was there to say? What explanation could possibly matter? Gregory Thornton, by the way, disappeared. Once he realized the con was exposed, he vanished. The investigator found evidence he'd moved to another state, probably to run the same scheme on new victims. Diane lost the $40,000. It was gone. The investment evaporated like morning mist. That money I'd worked years to save, money that should have gone to our children, to our retirement, to building a life together, was gone forever, spent on the ego of a con artist and the delusions of my wife. The hardest part was explaining it to people, friends who knew us as a couple, colleagues who'd attended our anniversary parties, neighbors who'd watched our kids grow up. I'm so sorry, they'd say. We had no idea. You seemed so happy. We seemed happy. That was the cruelest part. The illusion had been so complete that even people who knew us well had been fooled. Some friendships ended. People who didn't want to take sides but ended up gravitating toward Diane anyway. People who thought I was being too harsh, too unforgiving. Everyone makes mistakes, they'd say. Maybe you should consider counseling. Try to work it out. But they didn't understand. They didn't see what I saw. They didn't feel what I felt. Trevor, my best friend, he understood. He'd stand by me through the worst of it. I'm sorry I told you it was nothing, he said one night over drinks. I should have trusted your instincts. It's not your fault, she fooled everyone. Still, you were hurting, and I dismissed it. That's on me. The kids struggled too. Monica stopped speaking to her mother for months. Felix tried to maintain a relationship but kept it distant, formal. I don't know how to forgive her, Monica told me during one of our phone calls. Every time I think about it, about what she did to you, to our family, I just get so angry. You don't have to forgive her, I said. Not on anyone's timeline but your own. Maybe not ever. But she's my mother. She is, and that makes it even harder. But you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel betrayed. She didn't just hurt me, she hurt all of us. Months passed. Winter turned to spring. The house felt too big with just me in it, too quiet, too full of ghosts. I thought about selling it, starting fresh somewhere new. But this was my home. I'd earned it. I'd built it. I wasn't going to let her betrayal drive me out of my own life. Instead, I started making changes. I repainted the bedroom, got rid of the old furniture, and bought new. Changed the sheets, the curtains, everything. Tried to exercise the memory of what had happened there. I threw myself into work, took on extra projects, traveled for business more than I needed to. Anything to fill the hours, to keep my mind busy, to avoid the silence that brought the memories rushing back. But healing, I learned, doesn't happen on a schedule. You can't force it. You can't outrun it. There were still nights when I'd wake up at 3 in the morning, drenched in sweat, the images from that video flashing through my mind. Nights when I'd go downstairs and sit in the dark kitchen, wondering where everything went wrong. Had there been signs earlier? Things I'd missed? Or had she just been that good at hiding it? I'd probably never know. If something feels wrong, trust your instincts. You might save a life, even your own. That's what I've learned from all of this. That sick feeling in your gut, that sense that something's off, even when you can't quite name it, listen to it. Don't let people convince you you're paranoid or imagining things. Don't let guilt or fear or hope silence that inner voice that knows when something isn't right. I ignored my instincts for months. I let her gaslight me. I let well-meaning friends and family members convince me I was being irrational. And all the while, the betrayal was happening. The lies were accumulating. The damage was spreading. If I'd trusted my gut sooner, maybe I could have stopped it before it went so far. Maybe I could have confronted her before $40,000 vanished. Maybe I could have protected my children from some of the pain. Or maybe it would have happened anyway. Maybe once someone decides to betray you, there's nothing you can do to stop it. Maybe the betrayal was always there, waiting to happen, and I was just naive enough to believe in forever. I don't know if I'll ever trust anyone again the way I trusted Diane. 28 years of devotion, and look where it got me. Divorced, alone, jumping at shadows, suspicious of every kind word or loving gesture. But I'm working on it. Working on rebuilding myself. Working on remembering who I was before all this happened. Before I became this bitter, wounded thing. I started seeing a therapist. A kind woman named Dr. Chen who specializes in trauma and betrayal. She's helping me process what happened. Helping me understand that what Diane did wasn't about me. It wasn't a reflection of my worth or my adequacy as a husband. It was about her choices, her selfishness, her failure to honor her commitments. You can't control other people's actions, Dr. Chen tells me. You can only control how you respond to them. And you responded by protecting yourself and demanding accountability. That takes courage. I don't feel courageous. I feel damaged. But I'm trying. Monica and Felix are doing better too. Felix got married to Clarissa in a small ceremony last month. It was bittersweet. A happy occasion shadowed by the absence that filled the room. Diane wasn't invited. Felix couldn't bear to have her there, knowing what she'd done to his father. Monica's graduating with her PhD in 2 months. She's asked me to attend the ceremony. I'll be there, front row, beaming with pride at the daughter we raised together, even though that "we" doesn't exist anymore. I've started dating again. Nothing serious. Just coffee with a woman from work here, dinner with a friend of Trevor's there, testing the waters. Trying to remember how to trust, how to be vulnerable, how to believe that not everyone will destroy you. It's hard. Every time a woman smiles at me, every time there's a moment of connection, I find myself waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for the betrayal, the lie, the revelation that it was all fake. Dr. Chen says this is normal. That healing from betrayal takes time, that I'm allowed to be cautious, allowed to protect myself, as long as I don't let Diane's actions poison the rest of my life. She already took 28 years, Dr. Chen says. Don't let her take the rest. She's right. I know she is. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it in your bones are two different things. Some days are better than others. Some days I wake up and feel almost normal. I have coffee, I go to work, I come home, I watch television or read a book or have dinner with a friend, and for a few hours, I forget about the pain. Other days, the weight of it crushes me. I'll see something that reminds me of her, a song on the radio, a commercial for a restaurant we used to frequent, a woman wearing the same perfume she used to wear, and suddenly I'm back there, drowning in betrayal, struggling to breathe. But those days are getting fewer. The gaps between them are getting longer, and that's something, I suppose. That's progress. I sold Diane's car, the one that had made so many trips to the Riverside Inn, donated her clothes to charity, got rid of anything in the house that reminded me too strongly of her. I'm not trying to erase the past. That's impossible. But I'm trying to build a future that doesn't include her ghost lurking in every corner. I've thought about reaching out to Gregory Thornton's other victims. The investigator found 3 of them, women who'd been conned by him in previous years. I could warn them. Form some kind of support group. Turn our collective pain into something useful. But I'm not ready for that yet. Maybe someday. Maybe when I've healed enough to help others heal. But right now, I'm still just trying to survive. Patricia apologized to me last week, called me out of the blue, her voice thick with tears. I'm so sorry, Raymond. I should have seen it. I should have known something was wrong. I'm her sister. I should have protected you. It's not your fault, I told her. She fooled everyone, even herself maybe. She asks about you, Patricia said quietly. She wants to know if you're okay. What do you tell her? That you're surviving, that you're strong, that you're going to be fine. Am I? Yes, Patricia said firmly. You are, because you're a good man, Raymond, and good men don't stay broken forever. I hope she's right. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. It really means the world to me. I'm sharing this story not for pity, but for truth, because I know I'm not the only person out there who's been betrayed. I'm not the only one who's had their trust shattered and their life torn apart by someone they loved. If you're going through something like this right now, I want you to know, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not imagining things. If your gut is telling you something's wrong, listen to it. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. And if you've already been through it, if you're on the other side of betrayal trying to figure out how to keep breathing, I want you to know, it gets better. Not quickly, not easily, but it does get better. The scars remain. The wounds don't fully heal, but you learn to live with them. You learn to trust again, cautiously. You learn that one person's betrayal doesn't mean everyone will betray you. You learn to forgive yourself for not seeing it sooner, for believing the lies, for trusting when you should have doubted. You learn that sometimes love isn't enough, that sometimes people change, or maybe they were never who you thought they were in the first place. You learn that you're stronger than you thought you were, that you can survive things you never imagined surviving. And you learn that life goes on, wounded, changed, different than it was before, but it goes on. My name is Hurt. I'm 53 years old, and I survived the worst betrayal of my life. I'm still here, still standing, still fighting to rebuild something from the ashes of everything